Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another AM podcast of Down the Line today with Jeremy Humphrey. Today's special guest is going to be Wild Things, lesson guru, everything under the sun when it comes to baseball, Tim Provenzano. Thank you, Coach, for coming on board today.
Hey, thank you, Jeremy. This is phenomenal what you're doing. I've been enjoying watching every episode, and getting the high school coaches in the Valley together with this is just awesome. I think you're doing a great thing.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. For those of you that are joining the podcast that don't know anything about Coach Provenzano, Coach Provo, why don't you give us a little introduction about yourself and who you are?
All right, I'm Tim Provenzano. Kind of got shortened to Coach Provo, so everybody knows me as Coach Provo. I actually put that on my Facebook. It's Tim Provo instead of Tim Provenzano. That's how everybody kind of knows me, so I had to adjust that. So baseball has been part of my life for quite a long time. Played college baseball, had an arm injury, couldn't play any longer. That kind of got me into the coaching realm at that point. I enjoy coaching more than I ever enjoyed probably playing, and that's kind of sad to say, but I think a lot of coaches will tell you that. I've coached Madonna High School. I was at Madonna for 7 years. I went to Weir for a couple years as the assistant coach, and then I was with the Washington Wild Things for 5 years. I was the assistant manager at Washington for 5 years. To be honest, every place that I was at, just a blessing to be at. I miss it a little bit, but I've kind of taken a different route on it. And it's given me more flexibility to be with my family and whatnot, which is important. But yeah, I mean, baseball's just been a part of my life since day one. So.
Well, let's talk about the avenues that you've gone down as far as coaching and training and everything like that. You're not coaching now. Describe what you're doing, behind the scenes as far as, coaching lesson wise and everything like that.
So right now, I kind of have a lot that's going on. We were talking about that before we got on here. So I do player development for travel organizations. They call me in. I'll give them game plans, practice plans. We'll do arm strengthening stuff. We'll go over all that stuff to get them ready for their season. And then I also do lessons on the side. Again, I'm the type person, I don't take on a lot of people. I kind of keep it smaller just for the simple fact that if I have somebody, I want to give them 100% attention and go into it. So, I'm not that guy that's going to take on 20, 30 people at a time and kind of, get a little stretched out with it. I like to stay within 5 to 6 kids at a time and really get them focused and whatnot. I have 2 kids right now that I've been working with that have both signed college scholarships. So to me, that's that's something that it reflects back on what I'm doing and whatnot. So, a lot of emphasis going back to, I had arm issues in college. This goes back to teaching kids the correct way of throwing, taking stress off their arms, working the lower half, just in general, trying to get them so they're not a junior in college and having arm problems and going through the same path that I did.
What are some of the things that you use as far as drills and tools and different items that are available for everybody to use? What are some of the items that you use to do like pre-stretch or anything like that before you start throwing?
So a lot of it's J-bands. I'm sure a lot of people have kind of, if you haven't heard of J-bands yet, Jaeger bands yet, you're kind of out of the loop. That flexibility, just getting a flexibility, that's the baseline. A lot of people don't really realize that as pitchers or as baseball players in general, we have to be flexible. That's one of the main things that we have to be able to do. And especially with kids, at that 10 to 11, 12, 13 to 17 years old, their bones are growing, but their tendons and their ligaments aren't kind of growing with that. So we have to stretch that out. That's where a lot of the arm injuries come in. That's where the J bands really help out. I use a lot of things. Vanderbilt came out with a core velocity belt years ago. I'm huge on that. It teaches the lower half. It's a great way to, you could tell a kid all day long, hey, we gotta do this on our lower half. We got to get shoulder hip separation. We got to this, that. But until you put something on them, it's going to show them how to kind of do that.
Yeah.
That it's tough. It's tough for a kid to understand. So the core velocity belt's a basis of kind of what I use. I use the clean Fuegos, which I kind of, with your son, I kind of threw that at you real quick. It's just the pronation and the sublimation. I see a lot of these kids in the Valley, just everybody supplementing the ball. They're not getting in a good pronation area, and that's causing stress on the labrum. It causes all kinds of things in the elbow. It's just little things.
Explain that sunation and pronation as far as, trying to get into the screen here. The pronation, you said 11 o'clock, and then the sunation, probably more like a 2 o'clock type thing. Explain how that actually works with throwing the ball.
So when you come into a lesson with me and I'm kind of slowing things down, I'm looking, the first thing I am going to look at is release. Is where a kid's going to release at. And it's mind blowing because you'll see a lot of kids in the Valley that are actually throwing off speed pitches. Let me get over here a little bit. They're throwing their off speed pitch and not getting into that pronation set. So we look at it with the naked eye and we're like, oh, that ball's got movement. It might have run or whatever it might be. Well, yeah, it's going to have run because it's where we're releasing it on the outside of the ball, and it's kind of spinning the ball. We're not getting that good four seam pronation that we need to spin the ball the correct way. So, getting into that, it's just something that you start there. The biggest thing that we want, and especially when I was at Washington, one of the things that we really looked at was how the ball's gaining velocity through the zone. And that's huge. I mean, when you're talking about a high level pitcher, or even a high school kid, a college kid, whatever it might be, you want that ball spinning enough that it's gaining velocity through the zone. And with a lot of the things that we have at certain places, the Rapsodo, the super slow-mo cameras, we can go in and we can really see what's kind of going on and see if we're getting that spin and seeing how it's coming out of the hand and seeing the spin directly out of the hand. Those are big things.
So they also have that Diamond Kinetics baseball that you can use, that you can download the app. How accurate is that with the spin rotation and different things like that?
It's going to give you a good idea. It's going to give you somewhat of a baseline. I like the Rapsodo for the simple reason that it has the super slow-mo camera in it as well, so you can really see how the ball's spinning. That's just giving you a baseline of what the ball's telling you.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you could actually see the ball coming out of a kid's hands right at release and stop, and slow that down, you can really
see everything about
absolutely. Yeah. So I'm not saying they're bad. Trust me. I would never say that will give you a good baseline of how the ball's spinning. It'll give you a spin rate. Like, let's say it's 85, 95%, whatever it might be. That's fine. But we have to go back to, if it was 85, how do we get to 95? And that's where you want that camera to be able to see where you're actually going to be at.
Now, when you're releasing the ball, does it also have to do with, obviously you want the seams on your fingers so that when you pull down, you can get that snap of the wrist to get the seams spinning as well? I mean, how much is the factor does all of that take into place?
It's pretty much everything. I mean, and here's the thing, like I tell people this all the time, I'm not a cookie cutter guy. So, to me, you have a lot of people that want to treat kids as robots. I mean, when we were younger, think about it. Everything's changed since we were younger because of technology. I mean, there's a lot of things like, I don't know. I hope nobody still teaches this, and I feel bad if I maybe say something, but squash the bug is not something that you hear anymore. I mean, but we were taught that, I mean, that's something that we were taught.
Elbow up.
Elbow. Little things like that. And even like push off the mound when I was younger. It was in my thought. My coach was like, "Hey, push off the mound." So I was jumping off the mound to home plate. That's not what we want to do. We want to stay connected in the ground. We found that with the technology, that the kinetics of this whole thing is just, it's mind blowing, you know? So I, I think it's just, it's changed. Everything's changed, and you got to keep up on that. You know, every year
Yeah,
it's something different.
absolutely. Now, I want to go back to the off-season workouts and stuff that you do. Obviously, J bands with stretches. What are some off-season workouts that you do that can build arm strength, build velocity, build distance throwing? You know, with just everything in general as far as how to prepare a kid during the off-season.
Well, I'm a big component. Now I will go old school on this because it's stood the test of time. And long tossing to me is just, it's the best thing you could possibly do. It's proven that it gains arm speed. It gives you velocity. It's like I said, it's stood the test of time.
Right.
Now plyo balls, the driveline programs, they're very good. The med balls, and we talk, there's a talk of weighted balls. I'm not a big fan of weighted balls in certain situations.
Right.
I'm obviously never throwing them off the mound. If we are throwing the weighted ball, we're going upside, and then we're going lower side. So we're going heavy, and we're going light as well. So, we're going under the 5 ounce of the baseball. We might go to 7, 8 ounces, and that's at 40 feet, nothing. And it's flat ground. It's never off a mound. We're never throwing it farther than 40 to 60 feet. And that's it.
Right.
And then the underload is huge as well. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. If you're going to go heavy, you want to go back down. So you're going to a 2 ounce ball, and you're throwing that, and then you're working your way back to a 5 ounce ball. So,
Okay.
and the great thing, I wish that we had this when we were younger. These kids can all go online and see what's going on with all this stuff now.
Right.
I mean, it's just, you can see all this stuff. Everything's there for you. It's an encyclopedia of this stuff for you.
Yeah.
So
between Instagram, TikTok, and just
absolutely
everything. Coach Rack, I think, is a really good one. He does a lot of good stuff.
Tread athletics, top velocity.
Mike Grady up in Canton area, they do a really good job with the driveline stuff that they do as well.
Yeah.
Now we all know the baseball season is super long. Travel ball season is super long.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever tell a player, even during their off season, to shut it down for a month, 2 months? Like, how long do you think a player should shut it down after their season to completely give their muscles, tendons, everything a break?
So the way I kind of do it is a month and a half to 2 months. I want just no throwing whatsoever. And a lot of people will come to me and say, well, he's a baseball player. Like, is he just not going to throw? I say, go in a cage and hit for those 2 months. And what they found over time is when you let the arm actually regress, it builds back stronger. And a lot of people have the mindset, unfortunately, that it's going to keep getting stronger if you keep throwing. You need to give it rest.
Right.
Now I will say this, and during that time, if you're old enough, get in the weight room. That's your time to get in the weight room. That's your time to get stronger. For one of the kids that I have right now, he's going to Salem, lefty. I'm not going to name any names, but it's just mind blowing. This he came into me, he's throwing 88, never pitched before.
Oh, wow.
In high school, his coach didn't use him. He goes to a showcase. He's in the outfield. He throws 88 from the outfield, and they look at him. They go, "Have you ever pitched?" And he said, "When I was younger, he hopped on the mound. He was throwing 88." And it was just opened a whole new world for him. So we had to teach this kid how to throw. He's at 92, 93 right now, as a lefty. And you think of that whole process of this kid, but I've had to keep him on. I gave him a 7-day schedule. So, he's on a strict schedule for 7 days. He's on his off days. We talk about travel. This is my biggest thing with travel. And my son's one of them. Okay. And I've learned over the years is, they go out on the weekend and they're throwing who knows how many pitches on the weekend. All right. And then as he was younger, it was, hey, let him rest during the week. Right. Well, rest is completely different than laying around. Okay.
Right.
And that's where, that's where you think about it. they come back on, they throw, let's say 6-7 innings during the weekend, and they come back Monday and they just want to lay around. Tuesday they're laying around. Wednesday they get outside, they're playing with their friends finally, they're getting back into it. But what are we, is that the correct way of doing it? No, it's Monday. We need to be back up. We need to be short tossing. We need to be doing J bands. We need to be running. So I've kind of learned over the years with him that.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because that's something that we're implementing this year is, yes, we're going to be throwing on the weekends and you're going to get, your 70 to 80 pitches. Hopefully I can keep it around that time, that slot frame for all the pitchers. But when we get back to our next practice, it's going to be a J-band. It's going to be plyo ball. It's going to be long tossing. And then on Tuesday, Wednesday, we're probably going to throw a 25 to 30 pitch bullpen just to kind of keep the arms fresh. And we're not going to go throw Saturday, Sunday, and then not throw Monday through Friday. So we're actually implementing that this year. I'm glad you mentioned something about that. And I think that gets lost with a lot of travel teams where, they go play with their rec team during the week, or they go and they play with their friends, or whatever the case may be, and they don't get a bullpen in, or they don't keep their stretches going, and they lose sight of it. And then you do see a lot of rotator issues or just arm fatigue in general, just because they don't do anything during the week, and then they go right back out to Saturday and Sunday and start throwing. So
totally agree. And that's, arm care is so important. And like you said, I think a lot of people don't. Like I said, rest is your kid laying in bed. That's not rest. And I've even taken it to the next level to, we do cryotherapy to where we're isolating certain areas that might be sore. And if you can't go to cryotherapy, it's just ice, just get the arm iced and then put the heat on it. And one thing that has changed my son completely, and everybody's going to laugh when I say this, is just hydrate. It's drink enough water. I mean, it's you hear that term a lot, but it's so important, especially during that week while you're on the weekend as well. Just drink water, and they all want these primes, they want these Gatorades, they want all that other stuff. Just go get them a water and have them drink, but that's a part of this too, is hydration, and then sleep as well. We don't put enough focus on sleep either. To let the body rest. So, there's a lot of things that we do. It's a lot of flexibility during the week on the off week. Like you said, it's throwing, it's long tossing, it's a 25 pitch bullpen. It's a flat ground bullpen. Then you're going to get on the mound maybe Thursday, throw a 20, 25 at that point. And that's just working some mechanics and just feel, feel for your pitches and go. But I can't stress enough how important that is.
How do you feel about coaches putting bullpens together, but only focusing on that bullpen with their off-speed pitches and maybe not throwing all fastballs, but they just work a 20-pitch rotation of working change-up and curveball?
I think it's important, but my standing on this has always been, if you can't locate your fastball, then why are we trying to locate anything else? It's kind of a it's a catch-22 at that point. It's hit and miss. So and I'm about feel. I'm about mechanics. And that depends on age level as well. As the kids get older, then you're going to start focusing a little bit more on some of their off-speed stuff and locating that.
Oh, did we lose you?
Did I lose you there for a second?
There you are. There you are. Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Well, like I was saying, is it's just it's just feel at that point. And as you get older, like I said, if you can locate your fastball, then we're going to start focusing in on some other pitches. And again, the cookie cutter idea, I don't know how many times I've had to adjust kids because they're just in a regular area. They've seen it online, and that might be Trevor Bauer's slider. Okay. But that's Trevor Bauer. That's not you. Okay. So let's move the ball. Let's see where you're releasing the ball as well. Slots make a big difference on how you're going to hold the ball. So
absolutely. Let's talk about the old school myths again, like with the elbow up and, squashing the bug and all this stuff.
Yeah.
What is your opinion, the best age to teach
Don't get me in trouble here, all right? So
a
go ahead.
curveball?
I knew that was coming. I'm going to be honest with you. So I've done this with my son, and I'll stick to it. Okay, a kid that could throw a fastball and a changeup at the 10, 11, 12-year-old range, to me, is going to be more effective than a kid that's going to throw a curveball. And it's going to benefit them down the road.
Right.
You know, everybody wants to put emphasis on that curveball and the slider, and these kids all fall in love with that pitch, and that's what happens. They see that break, and they're like, oh my goodness, I could strike people out with this pitch, and I'm going to throw it all the time. And that's what happens, when in reality, our job as pitchers is to just disrupt the hitter's timing.
Correct.
So, and throwing a changeup it's a natural throw. You're not doing anything that's hurting your arm. So establishing that changeup at those ages is huge, and fall in love with that changeup, because it's going to be your bread and butter. If I was to say where I allow kids to kind of start getting a feel for a curveball or a slider is right around 11, 12 years old. And I stress to my parents that I do lessons with, this is a pitch that I don't want you throwing 30, 40 times that you're out there. If you have 0-2, go ahead, throw it. Okay. But we're not going to fall in love with it to where we're throwing it that many times. It's just, that's exactly what happened to me. I threw it too much, and that's why I wasn't able to finish my college baseball career. So
yeah. And I mean, if you're throwing your
big on it.
changeup the correct way, and you get that middle to inside or middle to outside break, or I guess it'd be more of a, depending on the batter, coming back into the inside foot, it's just as effective as a curveball. It's just a different type of break.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, and
you're
it's,
exactly
and it's
right.
less rotation on your wrist and all that other nonsense that goes along with that. So, I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree. I just think that there's a lot of parents out there that, like you say, they fall in love with that 12-6 look, and they go, "Ooh, that's nasty," and it makes the kid, buckle in the knees, and you get the whole effect of it. So, I'm on same page with you with that one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about overusage. I know, especially with rec ball, that parents don't probably get their kids into a lesson or focus on the pitching part of things. They focus on fielding and, throwing a ball across the diamond to first base. So you only probably have a couple of pitchers on their rosters for youth league. What can we do as coaches to not overuse pitchers?
I think it's communication. That's the biggest thing. I had taken my son out of rec very early for that reason, because I knew that mixing travel and rec is pretty dangerous, in my opinion, because what is happening is they're going out on the weekend throwing 80, 90, 100 pitches. Okay. And then they might have a game Tuesday or Wednesday, and their local rec team is depending on that kid. Obviously, he's going to be one of the better players on that team if he's playing travel to come out and throw that day. I think it's too much on a young arm. I would say that even with good mechanics, even with throwing the correct way, it's a lot. I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. But I don't want to take away from rec either, because rec's so important. I think at that point the communication is, hey, my son threw 80 pitches on Saturday. Can we at least hold him back to, and it's a communication with your travel team and your rec team.
Right.
Who are you putting on? Who as a parent are you putting the pedestal on? Are you putting them on the travel team, or are you putting them on the rec team? Because it just causes conflict as it goes through. So, I would say communicate with your rec coaches, let them know how many they threw. And then also during the week, you need to tell your travel coach, hey, he threw 45 on Thursday, that let's see what we can do. And hopefully that works out. You can do it. You just have to be very communicative with it.
Yeah. My 12U parents are the ones that do play rec, do let me know, hey, he did throw on this day. Sometimes they don't tell me the pitches, thrown that day,
Yep.
but they at least tell me, hey, he threw. So that way, we probably won't throw a bullpen, or we'll just work on the towel drill and long toss or
Yeah.
something like that, just
Yep.
so that we don't overuse the arm
Yeah.
when it comes to the weekends and stuff like that. What do you do in a situation with like some of these kids out of Pennsylvania area, especially Washington County? You're familiar with that area, that their players have to play so many games of in-season games, and then they have to play every postseason game so that they can qualify for the Pony World Series team or even the Little League World Series. How do you balance that out with travel?
It's tough. I don't know how people, honestly, I don't know how people do it. We looked into that a couple of years ago with the group that we had with the in Pittsburgh with that travel group, and we were all going to go to a certain rec organization and play in that organization and try to qualify for that. But exactly what you just said, it just interfered so much that it's just not possible.
Right.
I'm not sure how those kids are kind of doing that. I know that it's probably very stressful on the parents, and they're playing constantly. But at that point, I would hope that, and this runs back into that week-long thing. If your son's a pitcher, you need to have a routine. You need to have a 7-day routine at that point that's benefiting him and keeping him, safe for that, so he's able to handle that during the week. I mean, we think about it, in high school, and that's why it's so hard. I get asked this question all the time, and it's a good question. It's how do you, especially with the high school pitcher, you don't know, like you coach high school, you have kids that might throw on Monday or Tuesday, and then they might throw Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
How do you do a 7-day routine at that point with these kids? And then you have like the weather is now, you have rainouts. So, you have everything that's going on. How do you adjust that schedule to that?
Right.
You just have to go by, day 1, day 2, day 3, and just follow that schedule and go with it. It's the high school season around here is brutal in the sense of, we don't, technically teams don't have 5-6 pitchers that they can call on at any time that are, you're going to have your 1-2 top best, and you're going to need them to throw certain games. So, I think that falls back to answer your question about, the World Series, the Pony World Series kids. I guarantee you they're following some kind of plan. At least I hope so, that is keeping them healthy and going with it and communicating, so.
Yeah. This weather we have this week, obviously there's a lot of flooded fields that are going on right now. I can only imagine with especially like Buckeye Local and the Wheeling area. What other? I can't remember all that. Caldwell got completely flooded out. Their upcoming week and the week after that, I can only imagine what their schedule is going to look like and how they're going to maintain pitchers, because I guarantee you, I think somebody told me that they were playing 6 games in 7 days.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have arm depth, how do you manage that? I mean, as a coach, I would be losing my mind trying to figure out a game plan to make sure that we keep bullpens and arm care and everything together. I'd be losing my mind.
Yeah. Well, that's when they put these pitch limits on rec organizations and whatnot. That to me, and especially when my son was playing up through, that pitch limit makes you almost establish other kids. Before it was you just run them out and you have your kid, you go. That's what they did with me. I mean, I threw pretty much every game, but now it's, you have to establish that. And I think these rec organizations and coaches need to adopt that and really, establish these kids at that point with it, and then you wouldn't have such a problem at the high school level. Exactly with what you said. I mean, I dealt with that everywhere that I've been coaching high school. You deal with that. I mean, it's, you sit down at the beginning of the week and you're like, how are we going to manage pitching this week? What are we going to do? And you, at that point, you're like, okay, which game do I want to go at? It's you're either saying I'm going after this game or I'm going after this game. And then you hope that some of these kids, and I think that's the job as a high school coach, though, is to to establish these kids. That's, you got a freshman that's coming that hasn't pitched that much.
Right.
Get them there. You know, that's another arm, you know, and
Yeah.
that's where the good programs, they flourish.
And I'll be honest, I'm not going to name any tournaments other than one. But there's some local tournaments that have pitching rules in their bylaws, but then they go, it's just a recommendation. And I think the only tournament that we've gone to that has had focus on your whole roster being able to throw was Perfect Game when we went down to Destin.
Yeah.
You know, you were only allowed 6 outs in this day. And if you had more than 6 outs, then you had to sit for 2. And, you know, I think they actually put an emphasis on it to making sure that these kids aren't being overused and these coaches aren't going out trophy hunting. They really kind of cared about the development of the players. And I appreciated that from Perfect Game. Not saying we did so hot, we were competitive, but, you know, I think it really kind of put the emphasis in the weeks leading up to leaving for Destin of, hey, let's get our 6, 7, 8, 9 guys. We have to get them some game reps. We have to work on their off-speed pitches. We have to work on their mechanics, you know, 2 or 3 weeks before we left, to making sure that all the guys were ready to go when we got there.
Absolutely. My son's travel team roster there's 14 kids on his roster. 12 of them are pitchers. So that tells you right there, you know, I mean, that's what it takes to get through that. But when you translate that to high school or rec league, why don't we have that? You don't have that many pitchers there, you know, and it should be. That's where you should. You know, I've always said this, and just offbeat. You want to win championships, you better have pitching. It's just that simple. That's where it starts. You know, pitching and defense.
Toronto definitely this year is loaded with pitching this year. We definitely have some depth in that range. We have multiple guys that can play multiple positions, you know, based on who's pitching. I wouldn't be shocked if they made a run this year and did quite well. I'm looking forward to seeing what the end of the year looks like with them. So, I mean, with that said, is there anything else that you want to talk about? I know we talked about, you know, some things that you have working with some, you know, a new building, perhaps. You know, what do you want to talk about after this?
Yeah, so we're in the process of opening a new building in Hickory, PA, and it's got a lot of the stuff that I talked about. It's going to have a hit track. It's going to have Rapsodos. It's going to have the super slow-mo cameras. It's going to have TV screens all over the place that you can go and you can see and evaluate. So, you know, in a metrics-based world, which, you know, that's another conversation that we could talk about metrics and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, I'm big on the metrics when it comes to evaluating. But, you know, this whole exit velo stuff and, you know, a kid hitting whatever off a tee and all that other good stuff, you know, I always say this: show me you could hit a 92-mile-an-hour slider with an exit velo of 100, and then we'll talk about it, you know, when it's coming in live. But you know, when you're putting it on a tee for a kid and he's just hitting, it's going. But no, you know, we're in the process of doing that. Be a lot of camps that'll be run out of there. Obviously, I'll be doing a lot of instruction out of there and whatnot. So, you know, if you're a parent that your kid is very interested in pitching and want to learn kind of the correct way to throw, that's what I like to say. I mean, my emphasis is on arm health. I just don't want to see somebody get to where I was and then have to shut it down because of an injury. So I really emphasize on that. So if you're a parent out there and you're looking for it, get a hold of me.
All right. Awesome. I'll be looking to your Facebook page and, you know, seeing when you promote that a little bit more. And we'll definitely be in talks with getting the Yetis down there in the off season so that they can, you know, hopefully we can do a team thing and get them guys down there to work on their arm cares as well. Just by looking off of your Facebook page as well, you have a upcoming youth camp at the MAC there in Weirton, April 7th from 5:30 to 7. Explain what you're going to be doing with that camp, and is there any spots available?
So here's the thing with that. It's not run by me. It's run by my son. It's their National Junior Honor Society project. And him and his 2 other friends are running that. Now, I will be down here, and I'll be watching what they're doing and making sure they're doing the right things. But it's for ages 7 to 10, and it's free. Anybody's welcome to come. It would be great to see. It's just an opportunity to open the building up for the kids and and kind of, let these kids come in and take some swings and get some extra, had some ground balls and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like I said, I will be down here while that's going on. I got a couple other guys that are coming down to help as well. But this is his National Junior Honor Society project. So I thought it was pretty cool when he came home. He's like, "Hey, Dad, do you think I can run a camp?" And I'm like, "Well, what age group are you kind of talking? And you're not doing high school kids,
Yeah.
So 7 to 10 is where we kind of decided, and it's good for the Valley. The MAC building, the Madonna Athletic Complex, has just been it's been phenomenal for a lot of these people in the Valley to be able to come in and do a lot of things with. So
absolutely, Luke and Coach Bear over there, they definitely open it up. We've used it this past winter, for some practices. It's a great opportunity. I think it's 8,800 square feet. All turf, so you get to go in there and at least simulate somewhat of a infield type practice and get some throws across the diamond and stuff. So it's definitely beneficial to the area if you know about it. There's still probably some people that don't even know about it.
Exactly, and that's anytime the kids can get inside in the winter and be able to do things. We're Robinson and Pittsburgh area. They got D-bats. They got all those other things. This building is here for the kids, and like you said, Luke and Jeff, they definitely have opened this up and given it to the community. A lot of people don't know though, so like hopefully some people will find out about it from this. So
absolutely, I'm hoping anything to help the Valley out and the baseball and softball side of things. This is what the podcast is for. It's to promote you, it's to promote the coaches, it's to promote everything in the Valley that goes along with baseball and softball. And down the line doesn't just go with baseball and softball too. I'm really kind of in the talks with down the line, thinking volleyball and football and everything else that goes along with inside and out of sports in the Valley. So who knows how this goes. It all depends on family time and everything like that.
Totally understand that, but sky's the limit, man. I appreciate you having me on and what you're doing. Like I said, it's good to hear, coaches in the Valley really don't get to voice what they kind of are doing in their programs. And it's good to hear the different, like I've listened to a lot of these coaches and I love everything that they're doing. I mean, it's really cool to hear their philosophies and what they think of other teams in the Valley. And because we play in the OVAC, we all play each other. You could be in Ohio or West Virginia. So, it's really cool to hear. And I appreciate you doing this.
I appreciate it so much. We're actually, I'm looking at my schedule here. Next Wednesday at 4 p.m., we actually have Clearwater High School head coach Jordan Banks, a Steubenville guy. He's actually going to come on next Wednesday, and we're going to talk about difference between Ohio, Florida, and what he sees down there. That's a little bit different than the Valley. So we're going to get some insight from a little different perspective there. So
good stuff.
It'll be fun.
Yep.
So well, thanks, Coach Provo. Thank you for coming on and giving us a little bit of time. I appreciate it. We'll touch back up and maybe do a video on this Clean Fuego one day.
Awesome. Sounds good, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and have a good day, man. I appreciate it.
You too. All right. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.